Hey traders, in this lesson I want to show you guys a really cool trading tool that I have been playing around with. So the script I'm going to show you today is a script I wrote a few months ago, and I believe I made a lesson about this on my YouTube channel, and it was a lesson from the old mastery course in version 4 of PineScript. I've since updated this script to version 5. Let me show you what it does. So it's a trailing stop tool indicator, and it's designed to assist us in managing open positions. Profitable trading positions. Hopefully, at some point, we end up in a profitable trade. Price is moving in our favor. We want to lock in profits. And this technique uses a simple ATR trailing stop. So one ATR below swing lows and one ATR above recent swing highs. Now, check this out. When I add this script to my chart, when I click this button here, watch what happens. I get this little pop-up here that says set the bar time for trailing stop alerts. So whichever bar I click here will be the origin, the anchor point for our trailing stop. So if I click on this bar down here, that will be our anchor point. And now I need to select the trail type, so long or short. In this case, I'm going to choose long, and then I can choose an ATR multiplier. So this is the distance above or below swing highs and swing lows multiplied by the current ATR value. So by default, it's just a 1 ATR, but you could change this to be tighter if you wanted to, or further away. For now, I'll leave it as 1. And our bar time setting here is just set to the bar that we clicked on. So now when I click apply, we have a trailing stop drawing onto our chart, and this script will generate an alert whenever this trailing stop moves into favor. So every time this trailing stop gets closer to price action to lock in more profit, we will get an alert, assuming we've set them up in the alert dialog. We'll get an alert to our phone, to our email, however you set up your alerts, to notify you that you need to manage your open position. And it will continue drawing the trailing stop until it gets hit by price action, and then it will just stop drawing. So the way I got this to pop up on my screen the way it did, so when I click add to chart, I can click on the bar I want to start trailing from and set up my inputs here. The way I achieve that is using the confirm parameter in our input functions. So I have confirm true on our trail type, confirm true on our multiplier, and confirm true on our bar time. These other two parameters here are optional. Once we've added the script to the chart and selected what we want it to be, you can come up to the settings menu and you can change the look back if you want to. I just left it as a 7 by default. But if you want to, let's add a confirm equals true onto this as well. That way the user can specify how far they want the script to look left for swing lows and swing highs. So if I add to chart, click on, let's do a short version, a short example. Let me click on this bar up here and choose short. Let's change our look back to 1 bar. Click apply. So now we have a much tighter trailing stop. So let me just quickly break down the source code to this script. Obviously, I've already written the code, so I'm not going to write it again. I'll just break down each line of code, each section of the script, one by one, and explain what's going on here. So first of all, we're creating a standard indicator script, and we have overlay set to true so that we draw over price action. Then we get our user inputs. We only have 5 inputs, only. I guess 5 is a few inputs, but not as many as some of my scripts. But anyway, we have trail type, which uses an options list of string options. We have long and short. By default, it's set to long. Then we have our structure look back. This is how far to look back for swing highs and lows. Then we have our ATR length, which by default is set to 14. You can change that once you apply the script to the chart by coming up to the settings menu, and you could change this to a 7 period, for example. It doesn't make a big difference depending on the time frame you're trading, but it's an option there for the user to adjust if they want to. Then we have our ATR multiplier and our bar time. So the bar time is just an input.time parameter, and by default it's set to 1st of January 2021, but you obviously can override that when you add the script to the chart because we have confirm set to true. So any parameter that has confirm set to true will force the user to select a option for that when they add the script to the chart. And if it is a bar time, so a time input, or a input.price, so input.price, this input style, if you set confirm equals true on this input style, you will have to select a horizontal price for that parameter. Anyway, moving on, we get the current ATR value. and we multiply it by our ATR multiplier parameter. So by default, it's just a 1 ATR, so ATR times 1, and that gives us our ATR value. We use that, obviously, to calculate our trailing stop later on in the script. The next thing we do is declare our trailing variables. So we create our trail price. This is the red line you see on my chart, and it is a VAR variable. So it is a persistent variable, and it does not update on every new bar unless we tell it to using the reassign operator. So if we don't set this as a VAR variable, I'll show you what happens. Let's change this. Now the trailing stop never gets hit because it updates on every new bar and resets, essentially. It's always showing you 1 ATR above the current bar's swing high. If we set it to a persistent variable, now it's acting more like a proper trailing stop. So the way we calculate trailing price is using this ternary operator. It's kind of conditional statement. We're saying, is the trail type input set to long? If so, get the lowest low over our look back period and then subtract our ATR value from that low. Otherwise, if we are not using the long trail type, then that must mean we're using short, and so we get the highest high over our look back period and add the ATR to that high. And remember, the ATR value is calculated in advance with our multiplier applied. We could have pulled this out and put this in brackets and multiplied the ATR that way. Usually I do that in my scripts if I'm using the ATR for other purposes, such as an ATR filter to see if the current bar is too large to trade, for example. I don't want to apply the multiplier in that particular situation. But for this script, since we're just doing a simple ATR trailing stop, it doesn't matter that I'm multiplying the ATR when we get our value. And then here is where the magic happens for this script. This is where we update our trailing stop and we trigger our alerts if the update occurs. So first we check, is the current bar's time greater than or equal to the bar time that we set in the settings menu? So I can adjust this if I want to. We're currently set to 26th of May. If I change this to, let's say, the 1st of May, that will move our trailing stop. So you can adjust the trailing stop anchor point in the settings menu, or you can just remove the script, add it back to your chart, and then do the whole process over again. So we also check if the bar state is confirmed, because if we're calculating our trailing stop on a real-time bar, on a bar that hasn't yet closed, like this one, then we will be getting alerts firing every time our trailing stop updates, which it is going to on a real-time bar. So to avoid that, I have the bar state.isConfirmed check applied to our if statement. So we will only execute all of this code if the current bar's time is greater than or equal to the selected time on our chart, the bar time, and the bar has closed. So the bar state is confirmed. Once those conditions are met, this code can run. And what we do here is we check for long trailing stop updates. So if the trailing price, our trailing stop price, is greater than our currently saved trail price, so the T in this case stands for temporary, so temporary trailing price. If our temporary trailing price, which is this value here, whatever this ternary operator calculates, if that value is greater than our saved trailing price, our red line, then in the case of a long trade, we update our stop loss. So if our trail type is set to long and our temporary trailing price is greater than our saved trailing price, or we haven't updated the trailing price yet, if the trailing price is 0, so this is the first time the script is running on the current bar, then we update our saved trailing price to our temporary trailing price, and we trigger an alert. And I just noticed this alert is incorrect. It says trailing stop hit. It should say trailing stop updated for, and then we put in our symbol ticker ID. So I'm not sure what was going on there. Not sure what I was thinking there. But anyway, so if our trailing stop price updates and we have a long trailing stop selected, then we trigger an alert telling the user that our trailing stop has been updated for the given market. siminfo.tickerid will return Euro USD in this case. And the frequency is once per bar close. So it will only trigger on the bar close. It doesn't really matter what you set here. You could set this to once per bar or even frequency all. Because we do have our bar state.isConfirmed check here. So the alert won't fire anyway until the bar is closing, but I set the frequency to once per bar close anyway. Then we have the exact same thing happening for our short stop, except in the opposite direction. We're checking, is our temporary trailing price less than our saved trailing price, or have we not yet set a trailing price, and is our trail type short? If this is true, we update our trailing price, we update our red line, and we trigger an alert that says trailing stop has been updated for the current market. And then finally, down here, we check if the trailing stop has been hit. So if long stop is hit, reset trail stop. So if the trailing price, the saved trailing price is not equal to 0, so it has been set, and the current bar's low is less than or equal to that trailing price, and we've selected long as our trail type, then we reset our trail price, we set it to NA. You could also trigger an alert here. We could say alert message equals trailing stop hit for, and then I can copy this code over. So now this makes more sense. This is where our trailing stop is actually hit. This is where it's updated. This is where this trailing stop being exceeded is detected. I can paste that down here as well. And that's it. The short stop is the same as our long stop, obviously just a different direction. So is our trailing price not equal to 0? And is the current bar's high greater than or equal to our saved trailing price? And is our trail type set to short? If so, we reset our trail price to NA, and we fire an alert that tells the user that their trailing stop has been hit. Now, obviously, this trailing stop hit alert is optional. If you've already updated your stop loss on your trade, then there's no need to be notified. Your trade will just be stopped out. But perhaps the user doesn't want to set hard stops. Maybe you have, like this is a great example, maybe instead of updating your stop loss to whatever this red line is, you wait for a candle close above that red line. In this particular case, that would have kept you in the trade a fair bit longer. There are obviously pros and cons to doing that. It's not always the case that waiting for a candle close will keep you in a trade longer. Sometimes you'll get a giant green bar here and you'll miss out on a lot of open profit. But anyway, you get the idea. The final thing we do here is we plot the data to the chart. In this case, it's just our trailing price. So if our trail price is not equal to 0, then we plot our trailing price, because if it's not equal to 0, that means it's set to something and we want to see it. Otherwise, if the trailing price is set to 0, then we plot NA, because the user hasn't set a time yet. Anyway, that's it for this lesson. It's quite a simple script, but obviously quite helpful for managing open positions. It means less screen time. It means that you will never forget or miss a trade management queue. If the stop loss updates, you'll be notified. That is the power of PineScript. That's the point of PineScript. That's why we use this language, is to make our lives easier as traders. You could also automate this. I'm not going to go into that today, but depending on what third-party API you prefer to use, if you're familiar with any of them, like AutoView, Pine Connector, 3Commas, there's dozens of them out there, depending on what type of market you're trading. If you're trading crypto, there's tons of them out there. If you're trading Forex, there's only a couple to choose from. As far as I know, Pine Connector and AutoView are the best options. There are others out there, but they're the best ones I've personally used. If you're trading stocks, I don't think that there is a third-party API for that. There may be. If there is, please let me know. I would be very interested in that personally. All right, so after recording this video, I actually published this script onto the TradingView platform. And in doing so, I made a few small minor changes just to the alert functionality. So I better explain that. Because the source code below this video will be including these updates. So the script I just showed you was triggering alerts using the alert function. All I've done to the version of the script I just published is added alert conditions. And to do that, I just added a new variable called alert type, set to -1 by default. It's not persistent, so it does reset on every bar. When we detect an update, it's set to 1. When we detect it being hit, it's set to 2. And our alert conditions check, is alert type equal to 1 or 2? If either of these are true, then the corresponding alert will be triggered. The only difference with the alert condition function compared to the regular alert function is that we cannot put the alert condition function within the scope of an if statement. It has to be in the global scope. And we also cannot put dynamically changing variables or values into our string. So up here, when we trigger our alert function, we can add, that's one other thing I changed. I included the trailing price in our alert using the string.toString function. and I format it to 5 decimal places. But we cannot do this with an alert condition function. You cannot add series values or dynamically changing values to a alert condition. Your string must be a constant string that never changes. So instead of adding the symbol info.tickerID variable and the trailing price, we have to use the placeholders instead. So I have the ticker placeholder and the plot_0 placeholder. The plot_0 placeholder will inject our first plot into the alert message, which is our trailing stop value. And now when you come up and set an alert, you can select this script. You can leave it as any alert function call, and that will trigger any alert that fires any stop update or stop loss hit. Or you can select from these two conditions and isolate which alert you want to be triggering. Anyway, that's the only changes I made to the script. The source code will be below if you want to play around with it. But anyway, that will do it for this lesson. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you find this tool helpful in your own trading. And I will speak with you in the next lesson. Take care. Best of luck with your trading. See you in the next lesson.